Hello and welcome to another video. For those of you who have seen the channel before and who have seen some of my videos, you will know that earlier this year I went on my first trip to Europe in the motorhome from the UK with a dog. And in all honesty, it was the best experience ever, but there was so many things that I stressed about beforehand, particularly to do with my dog Simba. I wasn't really particularly worried about him travelling because he is an excellent traveller. He absolutely loves travelling. As soon as I pick up the motorhome keys, he will be running to the motorhome. He'll jump straight in and get on the back seat. He loves it. He absolutely loves travelling. And I know not all dogs are the same, and I am particularly lucky that he is such a good traveller. But I wasn't worried about him travelling. He loves exploring new places. I was super excited about that aspect, really. But the part that came with it was all the documents and all the things that you need just in case before you set off. And that was a massive stress for me. And I feel like having been back from that trip for just over a month now, I'm editing videos as we speak. There's so much content, so much video that I recorded. I have hours and hours worth of footage to get through. And I'm loving going through it all, but boy does it take a long time. No one told me how long editing takes. But here we are. I have decided to do a video giving a bit of top tips on how to prepare for your trip to Europe from the UK, because I feel like I would have really benefited from something like that in preparation. So here we go. Here are my top tips to travelling to Europe from the UK with a dog. Number 1, if you are travelling from the UK to the EU with a dog, you can no longer use pet passports, which is what people used to use before Brexit happened. Now it has to be something called an animal health certificate, which in all honesty is a whole lot of money that seems completely unnecessary, but hey ho, we have to obey the new rules, and that is what it is. So, you may think it's pretty easy to get an animal health certificate, and in all honesty, if you're prepared, yes it is. But I would say, first thing to do is speak to your vet. See if they are actually certified to give out animal health certificates, because it is an extra qualification on top of being a vet. They call it official veterinarians, who are the people who can do animal health certificates. But honestly, it'd be easy enough to just ask your vet, are they qualified to do the animal health certificate because you're wanting to travel to the EU? It's always best to ask in advance. I did this about 4 months in advance of my trip because I was so concerned, and it worked out for the best because it turned out that my local vet didn't actually have the qualification to do these certificates, so I had to go to another vet which was further away who had the qualification, and she wanted to know all sorts of details before I actually went to the appointment itself. This leads on to point 2. My second point is have a chat with the vet before you actually go to the appointment. Yes, you can get animal health certificates really close to the time where you leave for your trip to Europe. However, you really need to have that chat with your official veterinarian who is qualified to do the animal health certificate, because they like to know a lot of information beforehand. The vet I used asked me for things like his date of birth, his colourings, which I thought was really strange, what breed he was, obviously, the age, microchip number, which if you are not using your own vet, your local vet, you then need to ask them for a certificate which has on information like microchip number, and also rabies vaccine if you are not getting it done at the other vet. If you're getting it done at your local one and you have to go between 2, which I had to, it gets a bit confusing and you need to have proof of everything. It's really confusing, but it makes it a lot easier if you have that chat with the vet before the actual appointment. For me, it was a phone call. I sent the details about my dog Simba over email to the veterinary practice. She then looked at them, we had a call, talked through everything, and one of the main things they ask is, where are you going? I think it goes off the country that you first enter in Europe, which for me was Netherlands, because I was taking the ferry from Newcastle to Amsterdam. But yes, you need to know this information before you actually go to the appointment itself. It's so much better to be prepared than anything else. Point number 3, rabies vaccines. In Europe, you need rabies vaccines to take your dog in. You only need one vaccine, which is great because it's just a one-off thing. You need to get this a minimum of 21 days before your trip to Europe. It starts from the day you enter Europe. So for me, there was a day of traveling on a ferry. It went off the day I arrived there instead. I was really careful about this. There is no maximum, so you can get it done however many months beforehand of your trip. For me, I decided to do this 1 month before rather than the 21 days, just in case there was any supply issues with the vaccine itself and the veterinary practice couldn't get it in for whatever reason. I was trying to be super careful, but thankfully it worked out really well and the vaccine was administered 1 month in advance. I was then nervous about documentation, making sure that the official veterinarian that I was going to see for the animal health certificate had the correct information. So my vet actually gave me the little bottle that had the expiry date on and the batch number of the vaccine itself. You don't need that, really. You don't need the full bottle. You need the little sticker on it that has the batch number and the expiry on, so that that can then be stuck onto the animal health certificate. Makes things so much easier. But yeah, always be prepared and make sure not to leave it until the 21 days. That is the only advice I can give. Point 4. So this is about returning to the UK after you've had your wonderful little trip around Europe. You may be thinking I can just get a ferry home because that is where I live. Unfortunately not. You need to have worm treatment from a vet in Europe. It needs to be administered by them and then they need to sign the animal health certificate. I was really nervous about this, so I did loads of research. Thankfully, there is a site called Search for Sites. A lot of people may use it for finding campsites. It does show you veterinary practices. If you have a look on the site itself, I will show the one that I used. I will put it up here. Obviously, it depends on where you are. The one I went to was just outside of Lübeck, which was on the east coast of Germany, very far north. But that was really planned around my trip itself. I knew I was getting back to Germany 2 days before I was leaving, so I planned it all around that. You need to get the worm treatment between 1 and 5 days before you arrive back in the UK. This can't be done any less than 24 hours before you arrive back in the UK. So you have to be super careful, and I cannot stress enough, be prepared. But yeah, I was really lucky with my Search for Sites location. They were really great. I took my own wormer. So as long as you check with your vet at home, your local vet, that the wormer that you have and give to your dog covers you for Echinococcus muscularis, I believe that's how you say it. It's a tapeworm. As long as it covers you for that and has certain ingredients, then you should be fine. I think most UK worm treatments cover it, so you should be fine, but always check. For me, I checked with my vet beforehand when we had the animal health certificate appointment and took it with me on the trip, headed to the vets near Lübeck and asked if the vet could administer the one that we had. They said yes. So I think we got a reduced rate for how much it cost. All they had to do basically was give him the tablet, he ate it in front of them, they then signed the form, stamped it and dated it, and then we could head on our travels. So yes, my advice would always be take your own wormer. It might not be applicable that you can use it while you're on the trip, but what's the harm, in all honesty? It could save you quite a lot of money, and it's always worth it. So yeah, that is my point 4. Number 5 was a big one for me. It was dog food. You may think, oh, that'll be easy, I'll just buy it when I'm there. If you have a motorhome, I know not everyone is lucky enough to have as many cupboards as I have, but if you have any sort of storage capabilities, take your own dog food, because Simba, my little dog, has a really sensitive stomach and I wouldn't want to change his food because It's what he's used to. I don't want to upset his stomach, especially while we're on holiday. So I took all the food needed, I worked out how much I would need, and took everything that I would need for the entire duration of the holiday, and a little bit more just in case anything went wrong. So I would always recommend doing that. While I was in Europe, either Netherlands, Germany or Sweden, I did not see the brand of food that I use for my dog. I get it from a supermarket here, but they did not have it. So if I had tried to get it when I went over to Europe, I just wouldn't have been able to, and I would have had to change his food pattern. So if you can, stick to what you know. That is my advice. Probably seems like a pretty obvious one, particularly if you're going in summer months, but I was not going in summer months and I needed this. So I would say take a tick remover for your dog. It seems so obvious, but I was there during April, May, and 2 ticks landed on Simba, and we had to use tick remover. So it doesn't matter what time of year you're there, I would always say take one with you. What's the worst case? That you won't use it. There's no harm in taking it, so that is my advice. My final point, which is point 7, is don't panic. I know I was big on the panic aspect of this. I prepared for months. I was so scared. I didn't need to be, in all honesty. It wasn't an interrogation when you get to Europe. In my case, I arrived by ferry, like I said, from Newcastle to Amsterdam. We literally got off at Amsterdam. There was no space to go and get out of the vehicle, take the dog into a separate building. That just did not happen. We literally followed all the cars. You went up to a little area where you have to stop. There's a window. There was a man who was checking passports. He had a quick look at the animal health certificate, did not sign it. I even asked, does this need to be stamped or anything? And he was like, no. The only thing that they will ask you to do at any kind of border is they will give you a microchip scanner. It's just a little tiny device. It's like what they have in local vets around here. You literally get given this, you go and scan the back of your dog where the microchip is. They are then happy with that because they've cross-checked it with the certificate. They then give you everything back, passports, animal health certificate, and you're left to go. That was it. That was my experience at Amsterdam. I was really shocked. It was the same thing going back to Amsterdam to get the ferry back. They didn't take us out of the vehicle at all. It was kind of, scan this, there you go, off you go. And passing from the Netherlands into Germany, they didn't check anything at all. There was no border control. It was a road, and you just continued down the road. The part that I was really worried about was getting between Germany and Sweden. I was like, this is going to be some serious border control. There was none. You literally drove off the ferry, Trelleborg. I used Stena Line, and you literally just drove off into Sweden. There was no stopping for border control, check passports, anything, which I was really shocked about. It might not be the norm, but that is what my experience was, and this is all about my experience, so this might not be what happens in other countries. For example, if you took the Eurotunnel to France, it could be completely different. I don't know, you might have to get out of your vehicle and go to like a checkpoint building to register your dog in France. That could be the case, but for me, that did not happen, and I stressed far too much for how little effort it was, in all honesty. Overall, it was a great experience. Ferries were completely fine with Simba. They usually have, well, they have to have a pet area where you can go and take them to the toilet. DFDS was amazing for this. They had a massive area on deck with fake grass where you could take your dog, and a little area. It had picnic tables and everything. You could just sit outside. It was at the back of the ship, so really good. Stena Line, not so good. I've been quite vocal with my experience of Stena Line. It was not great. It was a smoking area outside, and in all honesty, if it was during the day, I don't know what I would have done. At night time, we got on the ferry, it was overnight, so Simba went for a wee very quickly. I then ushered him back inside, we went to bed, and that was it. But yeah, it wouldn't have been very nice if it was as long as the DFDS ferry was. So thank you, DFDS. not so much thank you, Stenaline. Just to give a special mention at the end to muzzles. This was something I really panicked about before I went. I didn't know whether I was going to need one. My dog had never needed a muzzle in the UK. He's not counted as a dangerous breed. And I'd never trained him in it. So I just kind of went ahead with the assumption of better be safe than sorry. Particularly when it came to the ferries, I didn't know what was expected, or countries like Germany, which seem to have more strict rules on muzzles and dog safety as a whole. So I went out, bought a muzzle, trained him to wear it because he just was not used to it, which was a miracle in and of itself, and took it away and never used it. So travelling through the Netherlands, Germany and Sweden, I did not have to use a muzzle whatsoever for my dog. We travelled on a ferry between England and the Netherlands, and we also travelled on a ferry between Germany and Sweden, and didn't need it either times. The only thing I would say is always double check with things, even if it means just contacting the embassy. I personally emailed all the embassies and double checked things. They couldn't really give me a specific answer for the breed of dog that I have. They just kind of said refer to their website. So yeah, maybe just do your research. For Germany, I think it's specifically dogs that look dangerous, which is a bit discriminatory, but I understand dog safety and everything. So yeah, just be doubly sure when you are travelling. So those are my top tips for travelling with a dog. If anybody has any questions, I am happy to answer them in the comments, as always. But yeah, I would say don't be too afraid of travelling to Europe with your dog. The only part that causes the most stress for me was the money inflicted by this entire experience. The rabies vaccine was almost £100. The animal health certificate for me was £250. So yeah, it was a lot of money, and I think if I went back, I would look at whether other vets charge the same amount for animal health certificates, because it seems not. So yeah, more research needed on my part, and depending on when my next trip will be, I will be trying out different routes. I think next time I would try taking the Denmark to Sweden bridge instead of the ferry for Stenaline. I'll avoid the stress of that. And also explore a new country. So that would be amazing. But yeah, overall, I hope this has been a good video and explains my experience a little bit more of traveling to Europe. And hopefully I'll get many more trips with Bertie and Simba joining as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.